Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, many different styles, and if people were to ask me about this brewery, I would say that they're just very solid all round. They were in fact one of the first craft breweries that I discovered when I moved over here to Sweden back in 2015. Back then they were best known for their fruity sour beers, but also their big imperial stouts. And in recent times they've diversified a lot and they're doing lots of different things these days, including, IPAs and lagers. But yeah, definitely one of the kind of old boys, I guess you could say, when it comes to the Swedish beer scene, and definitely worth checking out if you get the chance. But the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I know these guys can do very well. We've had this one quite a few times from them. It's one of their latest releases through Systembolaget here in Sweden, and it's a little bit of a straight shooter within its style category from what I gather. But like I say, I've heard very good things about this one, so curious to try it. So yeah, hopefully this is another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again, or Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get that Gothenburg catchphrase in when we're reviewing the Gothenburg beers, because it's channel tradition and all that jazz. We're going to go out to the northeast of the city, to Landvetter, and that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Bryggeri. So this particular beer is called Supreme. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this is another New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, this one is a single hop Citra New England Double IPA, and in my opinion, Citra is one of the few hops that can kind of stand on its own and hold its line, if you like. So yeah, this is one that just kind of caught my eye. I always keep an eye on what Dugas are releasing, but this beer was released as part of the Lokalt Småskalig assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for December of 2022. But yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see what we have. We've always had some really nice New England hazies from Dugas Bryggeri. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Dugas Bryggeri before, and we will no doubt add more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer based on the geography tagging system. Just go to the search bar, put your hometown, state, county, whatever in, and if I've reviewed beers from your local area, they should pop up. Otherwise, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries, and you'll find this one in the Swedish playlist along with many other things. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit once again about Dugas Bryggeri. So, as I've mentioned to you already, Dugas Bryggeri are based in Landvetter, which is on the kind of northeastern side of Gothenburg, Göteborg, up on the Swedish west coast. But this brewery was established back in 2005 in Mölndal, to the south of the city, by Mikael Engström Duga, whom of course it takes its name from, Dugas. But a few years prior to this, Mikael had met an Englishman who was selling second-hand breweries, and this really got him thinking about brewing his own beer. So he studied the Swedish alcohol laws, he went and visited various other breweries around the country, and then he started buying up equipment to put together his own brewery, and this culminated with the opening of the first facility in Mölndal back in 2005. So over the first few years, he continued to develop different recipes. He got his beers out there, he built up his sales network, but then by 2009 they actually had outgrown their original facility in Mölndal, and so they made the decision to move up to Landvetter, and that happened the following year in 2010. So the older brewery had a capacity of 1,500 hectolitres of beer per year at maximum, but then the new brewery started off with a capacity of 8,000 hectolitres per year, and this, from what I understand, has been more than doubled in recent years. But over the years, of course, the brewery became well known for a few things. In the early days, they were known for their fruity sour beers and also for their big imperial stouts. They were known for a period of time, I believe, officially as Dugas Ull och Porter Bryggeri. And that, as I say, was when they were doing the kind of sour, mostly the sour beers and the big imperial stouts. But in more recent times, they've been investing quite heavily in their barrel aging. They've got the Future series and also the Mega series. The Future one is the barrel aged ones. The Mega series is the very high alcohol Imperial Stouts, but they've been doing a lot of different IPAs and things recently. They had the Fresh and the Crush series, which were New England IPAs. They had the Bite series as well, which were the West Coast IPAs, and there were a few other things kind of going on there as well, but they seem to have stopped with these series and they're just kind of brewing different things actually. But this brewery are also one of the co-owners of the two Brewers beer bars in Gothenburg. They own these along with All In Brewing and I believe Electric Nurse, who are run by Mikael's daughter Ida and her husband John. They're definitely worth checking out as well, as are All In Brewing, one of the numerous gypsy breweries in the Gothenburg area. But yeah, you can find many Dugas beers at the Brewers beer bars that you won't find in other places. I think it's the Tredje Långgatan one, which is the original, and that's where I went and did an out and about video before. But yeah, that is, I think, all I can really tell you about Dugas Bryggeri for the moment. The latest development with these guys, I guess, is that they started canning their beers within the last year or two, but the stouts are, the big imperial stouts are still released in the traditional bottles that Dugas have always done. But yeah, as I say, that's all I can really tell you about Dugas Bryggeri for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery websites, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's crack on then and have a wee look and see what Supreme is going to have in store for us. So as you can see, this can is a little bit taller. This one is a ½ litre can. So this cost me, I think, I want to say 55 Swedish kronor once again. So that's about €5.50, £5 sterling, somewhere in the region of like $6 American. But you can see this one has a slightly different thing on there. You can see Prime Elite Jet Set. But yeah, it tells you a wee bit about the beer on the side here as well. So this is Supreme. Here's to Citra, because this beer is nothing but Citra all over. We let this superstar of the hop world, the most sought after of varieties, shine on its own. It lights up the room. Literally speaking, we think luminous. So yeah, should be quite nice, this one. As we mentioned earlier, beer is called Supreme, comes in at 8% ABV, and this is a New England Hazy Imperial Double, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, plain silver top on the can there. I'll just let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one there. You can see the Dugas D. You've also got the other Dugas symbol round here as well. But yeah, a nice ½ litre can, this one, with lovely artwork on it. So yeah, I think that's everything we really need to say about this beer. So let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then and see what we have. Yeah. Oh. And I should point out as well, this one isn't part of any of the series apparently. I had a little read at the blurb on the website about this beer before I filmed the video. So yeah, but this should be quite nice. We've always had good New Englands from Dugas Bryggeri. The West Coasts were good as well. Probably my favourite IPA I've had from these guys in recent times was the Pinball, which was an old school Sea Hop West Coast IPA. But yeah, this should be pretty nice. So we've poured maybe about 2/3 of the beer out into the glass for this one, but there's a solid half finger of a frothy, I would say, white head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass underneath and a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head, but you can see the head is composed mainly of sort of medium sized bubbles. But overall, the beer does look very nice, pretty much as you would expect from a New England IPA. It's one of the paler examples of this style that I've come across in recent times. It looks like a kind of very pale sort of pineapple juice or something like that. So yeah, remember, the colour of your beer depends on, 1, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging you do or any adjuncts you put in will affect the colour of it too. But when it comes to IPAs, for the most part, you don't have to care about those variables that I just mentioned. It is mostly about the kind of malts and the length of your wort boil. But yeah, certainly one of the paler New England IPAs that I've come across. It does look nice, but in terms of the level of haze in this one, for an 8%er, it's pretty much as you would expect, but it's not one of the soupier and gloopier ones that I've come across. But that might well be just down to the lightness of the colour. So remember, the colour of these, the haziness in these beers, depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree the yeast as well. So yeah, quite interesting, this one, but nothing particularly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. You can see that the head has just faded away to be a nice sort of thinner foamy layer just now. So yeah, I think we can take a look at the aroma. I don't think we need to say anything more about the appearance of this beer. There's nothing really surprising about it. So yeah, let's dig in and have a wee look at the aroma of the Dugas Supreme then. Yeah. Now, this, I have to say, does smell pretty nice, but still pretty straight shooting. So yeah, as I've said to you in many videos before, for me, there are 6 different elements to think about when it comes to New England IPAs. You have the kind of yeasty, farmhousey character, the rye and grainy side of things. That's a bit more prominent in American brewed IPAs, but then you've also got the barley malt bread, the wheaty bitiness, the oaty creaminess, and also the sweet side of things. And quite often these beers will show you elements of everything. But when it comes to this beer, and with quite a few of the beers that I've had from Dugas, these always have a good blend of, I find them always quite oaty, but at the same time quite barley malt bready, but very relaxed. You know, the Dugas beers always smell quite easygoing. They don't have the most pungent of aromas, in my experience, but you always get really nice flavours out of them. And again, I would say with this beer, it's actually very relaxed in terms of its aroma profile, but I like it. So, for me, just on the first impression, this one again is quite barley malt bready. It's got a good little bit of oat to it, a little touch of sweetness as well. The green component has a nice little bit of floral aromaticity to it, and you've got that lovely juicy fruity character. So this beer really is giving you everything you would want in terms of aroma profile from the style. But I think we should go into this a little bit more in depth and describe it a wee bit more, as we always do. So yeah, aroma wise, from the backbone of the beer is as you'd expect. You get a little bit of that kind of fresh white bready bread crust, you know, the stuff that smells as if it's still got a little bit of flour on it. That forms the backbone of the beer. I don't get much of the Jacob's cream cracker in this one. There is a little bit of it, but yeah, white bready bread crust, soft white bready character in there, you know, that fluffy fresh white bread. And it's, yeah, the bready notes, the bready barley malt notes in this one they are actually very, very prominent. I would say that for sure. So lovely, fresh, fluffy white bread in this one. I don't get too much in the way of wholemeal brown bread or cracker, as I've said. But then on top of that, you can smell the wheat in this one. So the wheat is sort of thickening the beer out, but it also gives you a little bit of yeah, it also gives you that little bit of kind of bitiness and smoothness. So yeah, aroma wise, this is quite nice from that perspective. Yeah, I do like this. I have to say, I do like how it goes together in that sense. On top of that, you get some nice oaty character to this one, and the oats in this beer are actually quite well balanced. As I've always said, when it comes to the oaty side of the beer, or a New England IPA, the creamier the oats are, the fresher it is, the drier they are, the older it is. In this beer, it's kind of got a little, you do get a little bit of dry sweetness out of the oats, which tells me it's not, you know, madly fresh, but we're still getting quite a bit of the creaminess too, which tells me it is fairly fresh. So yeah, there's a little mix of oaty creaminess in there, and also a little touch of dryness, but I'm also getting a good wee bit of sweetness out of this one. So there's a little bit of kind of Werther's Original out of the beer, a little bit of that, yeah, kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, but there's also a good little bit of kind of McVitie's digestive biscuit as well. So yeah, I do like how this goes together actually. Yeah, aroma wise, this is pretty nice. Other than that, I don't know if there's really anything to say about the malty side of this beer, but again, the thing you always get with Dugas IPAs is they're very straight shooting, but they give you everything you want and they're always well brewed, so you know, you can't really complain. So yeah, let's go on to the green component with this one then. So for me, green component in this beer, it's not madly pungent, but it still comes across quite nicely. There's a teeny little bit of earthiness in there. You've got a nice bright floral aromaticity, and also some really nice kind of grassiness as well. So yeah, the side of this beer, the floral notes, as I say, are quite bright. The grassy notes for me have a little touch of zestiness, but overall I would say the green component is actually quite, the green component in this beer is actually quite smooth, to be honest with you. So yeah, the way that that goes together, I think, is quite interesting. Yeah, the green component for me, it indicates mainly late addition and dry hopping with this one. So as I've always said too, there are three different kinds of hopping. Early addition hopping, which gives you mainly bitterness, that's done within the first hour of your wort boil. Late addition hopping, that gives you a little touch of bitterness, but mainly flavour and aroma, that's within the last half hour of your wort boil. And you've also got dry hopping, which comes after the wort boil, and that gives you all flavour and aroma. And you can just tell with New England IPAs, they tend to rely on the latter two. You don't get so much in the way of whirlpool hops, whereas West Coast IPAs tend to use all three, and that's why they're more bitter than New England's, generally speaking. But yeah, with this one, you can tell from the brightness of the green component, it's late addition and dry hopping that's been used in this one for the most part. There's not much of a depth, if that makes sense, to the green component in this one. You get like a really deep and dank character when you use the early addition hops. So yeah, that's worth bearing in mind when you think about this particular beer. So yeah, green component of this one is kind of as you'd expect. A little bit of grassiness, nice little bit of floral character, and the fruits are what you would expect of Citra. We know this hop very well. 14% alpha acid, American, bit of passion fruit, sometimes grapefruit, nice juicy mango, and a good bit of lemon limey character in New England IPAs. In West Coast, it will show you a bit more lychee and gooseberry. But yeah, the fruity side of things for me with this one, good little bit of soft apricot, nice juicy kind of mango on top of that. Good little bit of lemon lime as well. But yeah, not too much in the way of the more pungent grapefruit and passion fruit, which you can see from this hop at points. So yeah, aroma wise, this guy is very nice, but pretty much what you would expect from a single hop Citra double IPA. So we'll stick a little bit more of it in. Maybe get a wee bit more foam out it, apparently not. But yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beers before you get stuck in. But I think we should try this one now and see how we go. So yeah, this one is the Supreme, a New England double IPA at 8% ABV, single hop Citra from Bryggeri in Landvetter, just outside of Gothenburg here in Sweden. Slange, skål, cheers. Oh yeah. I'm going to say straight away with this one, dangerously drinkable for an 8%er. Yeah, dangerously drinkable beer this for an 8%er. But yeah, once again, you've got this lovely smoothness, softness, and just drinkability that you very often find in these Dugas beers. Yeah, that is ridiculous. For an 8%er, that is ridiculously drinkable, actually. Yeah, where do we start? Where do we start with this? First impression of it is, green component is very, very smooth. The kind of malty backbone in this one. Good little bit of barley malt, but again quite oaty, which is, to be honest, what I expected it was going to be. There's a little bit of wheaty bitiness there too, but then you've got those nice, soft, juicy, fruity notes coming out of it. Again, another really solid offering from Dugas Bryggeri, and there's so many New England IPAs out there these days. To be frank, you can't really ask for much more. So yeah, the way this beer goes together, I think, really is very nice. Yeah. So, in terms of the backbone of this beer then, we'll start on the middle third of your palate with this beer, as we always do. So, backbone of the beer, you get a nice little bit of that fresh, white bready bread crust coming out of this one. That forms the backbone of the beer. On top of that, there's a little bit of a kind of Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing. which I certainly quite enjoy. So yeah, a little bit of fresh kind of Jacob's cream cracker, good little bit, pardon me, of that fresh white bready bread crust, you know, as it would be when you get it straight out of the bakery, a little bit of flour left on the crust. You've got that there. But on top of that, you've got this light kind of airy and still slightly crisp fresh white bread. Yeah. So yeah, bread crust, Jacob's cream cracker, fresh fluffy white bread, and then yeah, the way it goes together in that sense is really nice. As I said to you before, these Dougas beers are often very straight shooting, but they're just really nicely brewed. They're just really nicely done, and you can't knock them at all. And as I say, you can't ask for much more than that in the New England IPA category these days. There's, you know, the market's saturated with this beer style, to be honest with you. But yeah, above that kind of fresh, fluffy white bready layer, you've got a nice kind of oaty, creamy note coming out of this one. So you can feel a bit, well, above the fresh white bready layer, you can feel the wheat in there, and the wheat sort of is a slightly denser white bready layer, but it's also got a little touch of bitiness to it. So that's quite interesting in itself. So you can feel that little bit of smoothness in there and the more dense thing, but it does have a little bit of bite to it. We'll come back to the wheat in a minute, and I think that wheaty bitiness is building the more that you drink of this beer. But in the middle of your palate, there's a very nice kind of smooth, you're getting the oats out of this one, so you can feel as you go down the middle line of your tongue, you've got a little bit more of a kind of dense and kind of creamy oaty character, and as you move out toward the edges of that middle third of your palate, it's got a little touch of dryness in there. As I've always said, oats are a symbol of how fresh your New England IPA is. I think this one is pretty fresh in fairness. But yeah, this beer maybe could have even done with a little bit more time to mellow out, in fairness, because there is still a bit of bitiness both from the green side of things and from the wheat at this point. So it's maybe just got a little touch of hot burn to it, this one, but that's another thing. But in the very dead centre of your palate, you get a little bit. There's a little tiny circle there with a sweet sort of Werther's Original, butterscotchy. Yeah, there's a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing to this one, which I quite like. And of course, that is covering up the alcohol in this beer. So yeah, a little bit of Werther's Original, butter candy, butterscotch. And yeah, you do get a little touch of a McVitie's digestive biscuity character as you go out toward the edge of the palate there. So yeah, the way that goes together is quite it's quite nice in this one. I think we've covered all we need to say about the middle third of your palate in this beer. But yeah, the border region between middle middle and front third of your palate, you get that nice little bit of bready build up in there, which is quite nice. So yeah, nice little bit of bready build up. And then behind that, I'd say it's a white bready build up, but at the base of that back third of your palate, you've got a good little bit of bread crust once again. It's a wee bit drier and a wee bit more grainy. Above that, you get a little bit of the Jacob's cream cracker, and again, it's a little bit drier, more bitter and drier flavours come out further back on the palate. But above all of that, you have a more, you do have a little bit of a more kind of wholemeal brown bready sort of thing, so you can feel that more kind of airy wholemeal brown bready character in there. Then above that, you've got the fluffy white bread, which goes together really well. And you can feel those two layers are taller, but above all of that, you've got a bit more of a kind of wheaty bitiness coming out of this this beer, which I do like. So yeah, the wheaty bitiness I think does gain more prominence the further into the aftertaste you go with this beer. Above that wheaty bitiness though, you do get a little more airy, yeasty type white bready character. It's a little bit farmhousing, a little bit yeasty, but yeah, above all of that, as I say, you can feel the flavour of this beer is quite, you can feel the flavour is definitely taller on that back third of your palate. Then as you come further forward, it just condenses down and squashes together a little bit more. So yeah, the way the malty and yeasty side of this beer goes together is really nice actually. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, so back corners of the palate, you've got a nice little bit of earthiness in there. But as you move further forward, this beer does quite quickly it has got a little bit of piney resin to it, and to me, Citra can give you that, but you have to use it as an early addition hop. And that's maybe contradicting what I said earlier about the aroma of this one. I do get a little bit of that kind of piney resinous note out of this beer, which is interesting. So yeah, as you come further forward, you've got a little bit of piney resin in there, but as you reach the front corners of the palate, the beer is distinctly more floral and aromatic. Then round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and a bit more grassy and zesty. So yeah, the way that goes together is quite nice. But the green component for me, the sort of more spicy floral aromatic note and the kind of more bitey, wheaty character this beer has, that goes together pretty well, to be honest with you. But yeah, the grassy notes around the front edge of your palate are quite smooth, to be honest with you. Let's look at that front third of your palate though, to round off on the kind of fruity side of the beer. So yeah, the fruity side of the beer in this one then, the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again you get a little bit of a white sort of bready build up in there, fresh white bread. The base of that front third of your palate, you've got a bit more of a grainy bread crust and smooth white bread above that. Then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. But this beer really is showing you the whole kind of spectrum of what you can get from Citra in a New England IPA. At the back of that front third of your palate, you absolutely get some of that really pungent grapefruit. That's there for sure. As you move further forward, you get a bit more of a mellow passion fruit. And as you're reaching the kind of middle of the front third of your palate, you've got a lot more kind of juicy mango type notes out of the beer. There's a little bit of dry apricot underneath, maybe a little touch of brighter, maybe a very slight sort of brighter pineapple on top. But yeah, the way that goes together, I think, is really quite nice. Yeah, so the tropical notes in this one are quite interesting. As I say, you do have that pungent grapefruit, which Citra is most definitely capable of showing you. As you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, you do have a bit of apricot and a bit of pineapple there, but you start to see a little bit of the kind of lemon-limey character that you can also get from Citra. So there's a wee bit of lime in the base and a bit of lemon on top, and that's there. But for me, it really is showing you that more pungent tropical side of the Citra, this beer, to be honest. But I like it. As I say, I do like how that goes together. Yeah, just behind the front tip of the tongue where you get the more grassy, zesty notes, you do have that wee bit of lemony character, and that's pretty interesting. So, yeah, this is, as I say, this is a really quite straight shooting New England double IPA, but I like how it pieces together. It's quite wheaty leaning, it's quite big and floral, and yeah, tropical, to be honest with you. So yeah, I do like how this pieces together. It is really nice. So yeah, big thumbs up to Dugas for this one. It builds compared to the aroma. The aroma is quite subtle. This one actually does have a bit more punch to it, I would say. So yeah. Let's round off this review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. As I've said, this beer, for me, it's kind of mid-bodied. It's right in the middle of the spectrum. It's almost dangerously drinkable for an 8% New England double, to be honest with you. But yeah, the mouthfeel is quite smooth. It's got a little bit of creaminess to it, and it does have a little bit of bite at the same time. It's not an overly wet New England IPA, this one. In terms of IBUs, this beer, as I've said, it's still got a little bit of that dry hop dustiness to it, a little bit of the hop burn, so maybe this beer needed a little bit more time to just kind of mellow out, to be honest with you. That's worth paying attention to with this one. So maybe it needed a little bit more time to mellow out, but I would say the IBUs are at least 40, maybe pushing 50 with this one. So it is a wee bit more bitter, but the malty base, as we said, it's got a bit of graininess, a bit of smoothness, a little touch of sweetness, not too much, good bit of hoppy bite, good bit of wheaty bitiness, I should say, to it though, and you've also got that nice kind of tropical. You've got a good bit of pungent tropical fruit to this one, softer tropical fruits, and also a wee bit of a kind of lemony citrus note. So yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, is quite nice. I like how this beer goes about its business, can we say. So yeah, this was interesting to try. I think that's everything we need to say about it, to be honest. Voice getting a bit dry once again. But yeah, this was the Supreme, an 8% New England Hazy Imperial Double IPA, single hop with Citra from Dugas Bryggeri in Landvetter, just outside of Gothenburg. Really enjoyed this one, and yeah, it's always nice to try the new Dugas releases. So yeah, I think we can leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Dugas Bryggeri as well, and we will be returning to these guys very soon. Make sure you check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and see you later.